Chris, I want to ask you about some of the teams that have gotten to a surprising start, and that's the Chicago Bulls and the New York Knicks. Do you think, with their rosters comprised, do you think they pose any kind of a threat come playoff time, or do you think, when we're talking about the Sixers, Bucks, Nets, Hawks, we're going to and Bucks, we're going to see that hierarchy take place, and the teams, even like we could put the Washington Wizards in that conversation too, with the Knicks, Bulls, and Wizards, we're going to see them kind of fall off when it comes to like playing that gritty playoff basketball.
Well, first things first, let's go with the Chicago Bulls. Because coming into the season, after Summer League, I said, you know what? The Bulls made some bold moves, but they're going to go as far as Pat Williams develops. And when he went down, I'm like, to me, I feel like they'll make the playoffs. They'll be good, but I can't see them advancing past. Like, I see them getting to the second round, maybe. But he was kind of the one that was like, okay, he could, if he takes his game even to one level up, and is that defender that's on, some player who's like a Tatum, let's say the Celtics, they face Celtics in the city. I'm just using in the playoffs, saying if like a guy like Tatum, like, oh, put Patrick Williams on. They're missing that now. And I just look at their roster and I go, they have everything except that young player that can develop and become better. Like all the guys are who I think they are and who they're going to be, and they're veterans, Levine and DeRozan, even Lonzo to an extent. Like I know what they're going to do. So I kind of have them figured out, and I would go definitely a playoff team. I wouldn't be surprised if they get out in the first round. Second round, I don't see them getting past that. But it's like without Patrick Williams developing, that's what I think about them, and I'm stuck there. Now, biggest surprise for me has been the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I know you didn't mention them, but the way Evan Mobley has come in,
that's true.
He and Scotty Barnes are 1 and 2 for Rookie of the Year, and he's such a difference maker. And bringing in Markkanen, who couldn't really figure it out in Chicago, but fits in Cleveland. And the Fro, I didn't understand how Houston didn't keep him and how Brooklyn let him. I just never understood how he was part of anything, because I think he's so valuable in today's NBA. So Cleveland is kind of the team that I'm like, I don't know how good they can be. They could be the Hawks this season. I'd be like, well, how did this happen? And as far as the Knicks are concerned, interesting. They have so many guys that make me think of Patrick Williams. Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley. Those two guys seem to be developing. And even Jericho Sims, their second-round pick this year. And don't forget, their run last year, Mitchell Robinson wasn't healthy. So, like, if all of those guys continue to get better, I think the Knicks could be the team that emerges out of the East if Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose are healthy in the postseason. So I hope that answered your question. It was a pretty loaded one, so I tried to cover all the bases.
For sure.
Chris, let's talk about the Wizards, because you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you spent a lot of time covering Washington sports, correct?
Yeah, so I just moved to Atlanta. I spent 7 years covering the Wizards.
Yeah, how did you feel about the Westbrook trade first and foremost? And then is this result to start the season a surprise for you? Did you kind of think with Dinwiddie coming in that this is sort of the expectation? How do you feel about the Wizards in general?
First and foremost, I think moving into the Tommy Shepard era in the front office, the second he took over, I think he was a hardworking guy that got overlooked for a long period of time. And I liked it immediately because you're rewarding someone for being loyal, for being with your team for a long period of time. Now, some of the moves he made, starting with Daniel Gafford at the trade deadline last year, I was like, what? And then it popped. And he earned my respect immediately. So when he traded Russell Westbrook and I saw the pieces he got back, I was like, well, I don't think these guys are going to stay there, right? Like, these are transitional pieces that don't seem like they'll be happy in DC. And then they made a move with the head coach, Wes Unseld Jr. And it seems like he's gotten all the new guys to buy in. So now you have a team that had a bunch of young pieces that didn't fit around Bradley Beal to this loaded veteran team that outside of Bradley Beal are kind of like a bunch of guys who, had won championships with KCP and Kyle Kuzma, but you go, well, how good is he really? And so they all have this chip on their shoulder, or even like you said, Spencer Dinwiddie coming off of injury, being the guy with the Nets that they're like, yeah, we don't really need you. I just think it's a group of guys, a motley crew that all have something to prove, with a head coach getting an opportunity for the first time, with a front office guy and Tommy Shepard getting the opportunity for the first time after spending so much time in the league in different positions. So I think that's what you're seeing with the Wizards, a bunch of guys who really, truly want to prove that they belong, like that they deserve some respect in the league.
What are your thoughts on Bradley Beal in general? I feel like he and Dame Lillard are kind of this old school mold with how they've tried to stick with their drafting team franchise. You know, I don't criticize players for mobility and that kind of thing. I mean, certainly business choices are involved, but what are your thoughts on Bradley Beal and his loyalty to that organization and just as an athlete in general and being there the last 7 years?
Well, Bradley Beal is an exceptional human being, just a good person, right? So let's start with that. And people need to just understand that. Second part of it, man, I think with him, if you look at the business savvy of, well, the way the NBA is structured right now, if I make an all-star team, if I make all-NBA, this is the team that can pay me the most. Everyone's jumping around trying to win a championship. What does that put in your bank account? Right? I mean, I don't know if Damian Lillard feels the same way, but I tell you someone who wishes they would have stuck in Sacramento probably, and that's Demarcus Cousins. I mean, you look at how much money he lost, and people forget, because Bradley Beal has worked on his body so hard, that come his first couple of years, I mean, that was, well, are you going to pay this guy because his body is brittle? Well, he's been very disciplined. He's overcome that, and every year he's increased his scoring average. To last year, he was in the scoring lead before Steph went super nuclear. So I think for Brad, it's more or less finding – I think if you're trying to build a championship caliber team, he should be your second best player. And if he's your third best player, you should win a championship. If he's your second best player, depends on who that first best player is. I like your odds. But the Wizards don't distinctly have anyone better than him, so I don't look at them as being championship contenders because of that.
Chris, I want to ask you about the product on the floor this season, and there seems to be a general consensus that the rules changes have affected in terms of the viewership for the fans in a positive manner. Is that what you're seeing in terms of what you're hearing from fans from an early season standpoint? I find myself, and maybe it's because this is like, the first season within a couple of years from full capacity of fans, things are back to normal from a kind of basketball standpoint. What do you think overall of the product, improvement? Because to me, I feel more invested in the early parts of the season, where in otherwise kind of the regular seasons, it's kind of hard to really get invested, this time in November. But now there seems to be way more competitive games. It seems like just teams are going at it on a nightly basis compared to kind of the old school NBA of this teams taking nights off on a regular basis. So what have you seen so far this season?
Well, the first question I have for you right back at that.
Sure.
Who's the favorite to win the championship this year?
Before entering the season,
just say
right. Yep. Now the Warriors.
But see, before entering the season, if you said that, people would say you were crazy.
Exactly.
And
right.
So to me, there isn't a prohibitive favorite.
Yep.
So you have all of these fan bases that believe we have a shot. And then what you have are young stars on like every team.
Yes.
So there's like balance to the force. For instance, if you're a Houston Rockets fan, what does Jalen Green have? What does, the young Michael Jackson have on the court? Because he's got all of this stuff, right? And you hope that you lucked out by him coming to you number two. And like we were saying, Cleveland, they have hope. Orlando quietly has hope. I mean, they're playing Mo Bamba and Cole Anthony. It's like Sacramento is not terrible anymore.
No.
So like a lot of these teams that have been outside of New Orleans, and they have Zion Williamson just, on the back burner, outside of New Orleans, like every team has hope to start the year. Now, the other part of it, asks you as the favorite, and you're like Golden State Warriors. Well, Steph Curry is the most marketable player in the NBA. Like LeBron James is he's probably my favorite player I've ever watched play, right? Mm-hmm. LeBron, Michael, and then like Giannis are probably top three for me in my lifetime that I just enjoy. But Steph Curry, when I go on a cruise and someone sees me with a basketball shirt and they don't watch basketball, oh, Steph Curry. I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know what I mean? So with the Warriors being out of contention, a lot of, you know, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, where there isn't an NBA team and people just watch the Buckeyes, oh, Steph Curry's doing what? You know, like that interest is there from college football towns when Steph's on. And I don't know if that's the case with LeBron. As much as I love LeBron, I think LeBron is for basketball people, and I think Steph is for the general masses. I think he's just more loved. And I don't know if it's a 3-point shot. You know, he's chasing history this year. I think not having a prohibitive favorite and having those Splash Brothers coming back and the Warriors being on top of things is good for the league right now.